Welcome to Kusa Cast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graeme Watson, and I'm the founder of Kusa Global. The word Kusa means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Kusa Cast. Today, my guest is Claire Minchin, who runs Vumbua Africa, which is a tour operator that focuses largely on accessible travel within Africa. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to have you on the podcast. You know, what I'm trying to do is get people in various different aspects of the industry, and I found your focus particularly of interest because of your obvious need to be as inclusive with offering travel to as many people as possible. So tell us a bit about the inspiration of Vumbua Africa and just a little bit more about what the company does and your focus.
Right. Well, I mean, the company was initially developed by Keith Johnston, who's the operations manager. And he started this in the year prior to the COVID pandemic, and his focus was in the desire for people to experience Africa, which is a continent he absolutely loves, because he was born there and he spent many years living and working all over it. But during the pandemic, I became really interested in who holidays in the various countries in Africa, how that experience is viewed, and really sort of why people choose to travel there. But my background is as a social worker. So I've worked most of my working life in supporting families with children who have a range of disabilities. Okay. So, I mean, obviously I'm really aware that for families, holidays are expensive often if they need particular accommodation, challenging if you've got someone with additional needs, and that people never really feel confident that the accommodation they book will meet their needs, or that the activities they want to go on will be manageable. So you know, increasingly Keith and I were talking about, you know, how do we ensure that people who want to go, regardless of age, disability, infirmity, can actually do that. And I think the other element for me personally was that I have first-hand experience, because I interrailed in Europe with my daughter a few years ago.
Right.
Well, at that time, she required a wheelchair, and it had impacted on the tail end of her education. She couldn't go to university. She couldn't fly. Hence why we decided to interrail. So we were away for a month, and it was very enjoyable. It was exhausting for her in spite of careful planning. And there were numerous occasions, actually, where we booked assistance to get on or off the train. And particularly in Europe, they can be really high from the ground. And the assistance would fail to arrive. And we were then at the mercy of kind fellow travellers, usually large men, who were willing to lift her and her wheelchair on and off the vehicle. And also things like accommodation, which we booked really carefully to be all on one level. And you'd arrive and find, oh, yes, it was on one level once you were in the door, but there were a couple of steps to get in it. So, you know, I think that experience for me made me really realise why people find it quite difficult to trust where they're going will meet their needs. So really, I suppose it was on the back of that combined experience that Keith and I developed Vumbua Africa into the company that it is today. So we use Keith's knowledge, wide knowledge of Africa, and mine, which is growing with a number of trips I've done now. But that's really invaluable to knowing where people would like to go and what's out there. And then my understanding of the challenges, perhaps of accessibility, and trying to ensure that we match our clients with accommodation, itineraries and transport, etc., that actually meet their individual needs.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating line of work to be in. You know, trying to cater for people with varying abilities or disabilities. What you know, we live in a world where where terminology is so widely scrutinized. What terminology do you prefer using when it comes to, we have to be so careful now?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, I tripped myself up numerous times, and to be fair, I mean, you try to do, but I mean, you're never going to be entirely politically correct for everybody, and some people, have, more terminology that they stick to, and others are more, able to be flexible. But I mean, I just talk about accessibility.
Yes.
And like I say, it's a word I don't really like because it just means different things to different people. But what we are aiming to do and what we try to get across is that, you don't have to have a disability. You might just be a person who, currently, or since the time that you booked, has an injury which requires, you might be on crutches or something, you still want to do that trip. You might be an older person who's travelled numerous times, but actually finds that their mobility is less than it was because they've got dodgy hips, dodgy knees, the things that come to all of us with older age. And it might be that you have autism and struggle with, lots of noise in a given place, or that you're, full time in a wheelchair and need a carer. So, I mean, really try to ask our clients what it is they want, what it is they need, and be guided by how they present themselves, really.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think that members of the community that struggle with with physical ability to whatever extent, do you think that they are comfortable if the cost may not be is higher than it would be if they weren't needing specific requirements? I know that I've had sort of discussions with tour operators in the past who say that for full-on accessible vehicles that may cost more to adapt, or hotels or lodges or tents or whatever, that a client who may need those facilities shouldn't be charged anymore as a client who doesn't. What's your view on that?
Well, yes. I mean, really, they should have access to the same things that other people access. I mean, I think most people who want to travel recognise that there may be sort of some additional costs. But I think that's partly why we try to, I mean, we have a number of partners, so we do a range of tours for any client group that wants to go. But what we've tried to do, and what we're increasingly trying to do, is to ensure that we've got a number of places that we know are accessible. So actually, they're already set up, so they shouldn't be any different. Clearly, if you need a bigger vehicle, if you need one which is ramped and whatnot, that in Africa, that can be more expensive. We don't have like the taxis, the London taxis that you get in the UK that, allow a wheelchair to go in. But we've also got, a couple of countries where we've got people on board who have been doing accessible tours for a long time, and they actually already are set up. They've got the vehicles that they need, if they need to have, ones that people can get into with a wheelchair. So they're already set up, not putting prices over and above. I don't know whether you've got anything else Keith, that you'd add to that.
And also, I mean, some of the vehicles that are in use at the moment are adaptable. They can have, they can have seats in or seats out, and they can adapt to that. So people that are, able-bodied, they can, the vehicle can be used for that.
Yes.
If they need to have a wheelchair in, but no seating, they can take the seating out.
Yes.
So the vehicles can be used either way.
And I mean, we try very hard when we're travelling and when we're speaking to partners to get people to see that actually the things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
If you're careful how you plan your rooms when you're designing them, they're usable by all people.
Yes.
And what's not to like about a ramped front when you've got a pile of luggage?
For sure. Yeah. No, absolutely.
I've sat in the lobby of a hotel just below Table Mountain, and every single person that got out of every single taxi went up the ramp, even though it was, sort of 2 levels, because they didn't want to climb the stairs. So, it's what's suitable for people. So we spend a lot of time trying to say to people, it's not an either or frequently, you just need to be a little bit clearer thinking. And like you said, a safari vehicle can have seats that go out and a ramp that will go on the side, and, it's not that difficult to be available to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, how do the vehicles generally get adapted? I think most of us think of safari vehicles as these. I mean, it's difficult enough to get on and off them with
right.
Yeah. So
5'1", I have difficulty climbing up. Well, some of them are ramped at the back.
Oh, okay.
Some have hydraulic lifts to one side. Depending on how steep they are, if you've got an electric wheelchair, you can take it up, or it might need somebody to assist and push up. But then you'd have clamps in the back that can clamp the wheelchair in if need be, or if people are part-time wheelchair users, simply because they can't do a lot of walking, then they can transfer sideways onto a seat, and then have family, friends, or whoever sitting next to them, around them, as you would in any other environment. Kind of a question we have to ask if somebody is in an electric wheelchair, because some of them can be very big. You have to check the height, because the angle up and into a vehicle might be problematic. But it's being aware and asking those questions so that they're sorted before somebody gets out there and finds that actually they haven't got the headspace to get their chair up and into the vehicle.
So
sorry.
Carry on, Keith.
So the vehicle that we use at the moment, the roofs in the Land Cruiser are actually higher than the normal vehicle already. So they've taken that into consideration.
Okay.
They've raised the roof. So most wheelchairs can get in or fit in. So any vehicle you can modify it. When you buy a new vehicle, make sure the roof is higher and the door's bigger, and make sure that the seats can be taken up. So,
and then there's other things really that are much more simplistic. Most people, they get to a certain age, don't really want to be climbing into. It isn't very difficult to build a sort of a surface beside a vehicle, so that there's a couple of steps up or a ramp up to the side of it to get in. We've spent many years having little stone sets of steps that people can get onto their horses back in the day.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you do something similar in most of the lodges, really, so that people can easily get into a vehicle?
Yeah. So, I looked at your destinations. In Africa, it's quite vast. Where are you finding that people are traveling to the most?
Well, I think the comfortable place to go is quite often as a start for people is to go to South Africa, because it's the most known, and people know a lot about Table Mountain and the penguins, and going up to Robben Island and places like that. And then people sort of think, but the things they kind of know, I want to go to Victoria Falls, so you can go to that from the Zambia side or the Zimbabwe side.
Kenya
and Tanzania.
Uganda.
Yeah, they're key safari destinations, which are known from the mainstream, I suppose.
Yes. And Uganda in particular, because I represent a company in Uganda, Pinnacle Africa, and they of course do the gorilla trekking. So when it comes to things like that, people I think automatically assume that it can't be done. But I think we know that.
Oh, you can go and see the gorillas if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We sent a couple out. They were actually able-bodied that went out last year, but they actually went to see. We asked them to double check it. So there's a sedan chair carried by guides, if you want it.
Yes.
Obviously not everybody would be able or willing to be lifted and carried by others, and you do have to be mindful of, the rules and regulations in different countries. But it is certainly possible to go to the gorillas if you want to, and be carried there.
Yeah.
So yeah, possibility.
And you've I think there's something like 45 years of combined experience in Africa. What have you seen change in recent years? I mean, I know since COVID there was a lot of changes about, and in terms of what you focus on, what have you seen a massive increase in the last few years, or is there still a long way to go with the progress being made?
Well, I think progress is always slow, and I think people they tend to stick with what they know as a system that works. But I think there's much more recognition of the range of people that want to travel. I think there's recognition that there is a lot of people in Europe and America and things who have history with Africa. They have family, they have friends. They might not live there anymore, but actually they want to keep going back, and they have found it harder. So I think there's a recognition that there's a range of people within the tourism, the tourism client group, that they need to be able to support, and their needs need to be met. So I think there's a growing understanding that things need to be in place. I think what is difficult, like I said, is, that term accessibility, which means one thing to one person and one thing to somebody else. So I tend to say to people, to our partners, when we go out and when we talk to people about what they've done and what they might need to do, I say to them, don't say you're accessible. Tell us what it is you have.
Yes.
So that we can then tell you what you might also need to be doing, and that we can also then take to our clients, what is it you need? This is what they can offer. Does that meet need? What would they need to do to make that work for you? We've been to, we've been to places where they've done so much, and you sort of, this is ideal. This is absolutely spot on. We'll be able to recommend this. And they say, right, well, we'll just take you to the restaurant. And we walk up a flight of stairs, and you say, well, where's the access to? Oh, well, there isn't, because this is the other side of the building and the lift's on the front. And you come, we can take food downstairs. And you go, why would anybody want to be sitting in another place to eat their meal when the restaurant is upstairs?
Yes.
So they've kind of done some things, but not others. And then you can actually problem solve with them. In this particular occasion, we were able to work out that, there was a corridor of bedrooms, and if they were able to access through another door and they changed the flooring on the ground around the swimming pool, you could actually get into the restaurant via a different route. But they hadn't thought about it. So, things like that, that need to be addressed.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely say to people, don't say you're accessible. Tell us what you've got, and then we'll work out whose needs it can meet and where it would fall to certain people.
Yeah, there's lots of washing, I think, that goes on, isn't there? People talk about greenwashing and pink washing and all the kind of different ways that people sort of say that they are, behaving or whatever, or promoting in a certain way, and it's just not up to standard. Is there an international standard that you are? Is there like a basic criteria that needs to be followed by everybody that you can assist with, or have you just developed that yourself?
Well, there are in different countries. Clearly we have to be mindful of what would be acceptable in this country, and if somebody wants to do something which is slightly different, then they need to be aware that that there are potential risks to that, i.e. letting people manually assist you. But I mean, certainly in Africa, what you find is that the hearts are huge, and there will always be people willing to assist or make it work in whatever form. But yeah, you do have to be mindful of the rules and regulations, and make sure that your clients are aware of what is on offer, and then they accept it, or they say, no, actually that's not for me. I don't think this is the right way of doing things, and until you can do it, it can be done differently, then we would choose not to go. But most people, as long as you can get the basics right, if they want to do something a little bit more adventurous, they will maybe say, well, yeah, actually, this is acceptable. I mean, for example, we've got somebody who's now sort of trying to, the lady's part-time wheelchair user. She wants to do one of the treks up Kilimanjaro. She needs to be able to walk a certain distance per day in order to get from one state to the next. And that is what she's building on her stamina at the moment. But she will be going with a team of 4. And if her stamina doesn't stand up to it, they will assist her and carry her to the next spot. And that's the choice that she's willing to make in order to achieve her dream, which is to go up Kilimanjaro, virtually under her own steam.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a great. I mean, do you do kind of a door-to-door service, or is it just from arrival in destination? I mean, do you help out with getting to the airport on this side of the UK?
We can do. People sort their own flights out. We don't get involved in flights, and I mean, flying is a whole other area of area in terms of accessibility, eating, toileting, everything is I mean, but to say that's a different area. So we don't get involved. People will sort their own flights out. We meet for international flights. I mean, obviously, if there's an internal flight that needs to happen and it can work, then we sort those out.
Yeah.
We can meet from the airport, and we can drop back at the airport. If somebody wanted that service to an airport in the UK, then we could do that and see them on their way.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fascinating topic, and I just hope that it gets easier and easier as it all goes as we head into the future. I think that you must be seeing. It must be getting better and better. Am I right, or is it kind of plateauing, or is it?
I think it's been slow post pandemic. I think particularly being sort of from here in the UK, I think everybody started out slowly, and they've all headed to Europe because and that's the population of the holidaying population in general. So I think those further afield and bigger activities and holidays are only now beginning to come back on board. But also, I think people have realised that what it was like to be so restricted, and they're now sort of perhaps thinking, well, yeah, we've always wanted to do this, let's do it, because we never knew the pandemic was going to hit us like it did, and we don't know what else is out there. So I think there's a lot of planning going on, certainly. At the moment.
Yeah, I think most of us have learned to have massive contingency plans in the background for anything that could possibly come close to what happened for close to 3 years now. But thank goodness it all. Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the back of most people's minds now. Thank goodness, and we're all moving forward and into the future.
It's interesting when you think about it, though. I mean, it was actually only beginning of this year, or last year, but the last restrictions were lifted in summer last year. So if you weren't planning before that, I'm just trying to think. We did a trip, and everybody else was going, "Oh yeah, it's all fine," and we were still having to show certificates and whatnot. So in planning and travel terms, it's still, not so very far in the background.
No, it's not. I mean, I had to show a certificate. It was strange. I was going from India to Nepal, and they said, can we see your vaccination certificate? And I genuinely said, for what? Like, I'd completely forgotten about. And I thought they were talking yellow fever or something. And I said, for vaccination for what? And they said, no, COVID. And I'm like, oh, come on. That was like 2 years ago. But thank goodness. But I think, yes, I think to your point that, it's not that far in the background, and, people are still recovering. And, it's as much as we want to look at that it's in the past or whatever, COVID, but I think that it's just, I think we just all have to realize that just keep helping each other is what I'm trying to say. Get back on the feet, because it has really only been about not even a year, maybe six months to a year that it's been kind of back to normal. As
I think the cost of living is also impacting a bit on people taking trips which are bigger and more expensive, because there is no doubt, if you've got an expensive flight before your holiday even starts, that it's be thought about, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And so well done on your growth. I see you're ATA members now, and you're always out and about. Are you going to be at the World Travel Market in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we'll be there.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully we can meet up again in person. I'll also be at the ATA function on the Monday night. So that's always a good function, and hopefully we can see you there. But otherwise I'll be on the Uganda stand. Please pop through and say hello. And yep, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be the kind of biggest and best world travel market, for about four years now. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
No, thanks.
Come today.
Oh, no problem, Claire and Keith. So, how can people get in touch with you?
Come to our visit our website, which is www.vumbuaafrica.com, or you can call us on 330-043-2598. Oh, I feel like I'm on Strictly.
Never mind. I'll put.
Yes, look us up on our website. All the information's there, and you can always call us.
Okay, wonderful.
Keith usually the quick one to respond. So
wonderful. No, great. Well done on the work that you're doing, and I really hope it expands and goes and to new heights. And I'm sure that there's many people listening that will get in touch, and let's hope we can help as many people around the world experience the beauty of the planet that we all love so much.
Definitely.
All right. Definitely. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot. Ciao. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into Kusa Cast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graeme Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on Kusa Cast.